we'll go with it, but we'll see. That's the general kind of outline. Okay, so any questions so far?
I have a question. Does this ends at it's a 2-hour sit, correct?
It's 2 hour. Well,
2
it's
hours.
a 2 hour session. Yeah.
2-hour session. That's what I meant. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah. And we will have a break after about an hour, just a short break. Okay. So your first thing is to set up your posture for meditation. So just get comfortable for a practice. Okay, so once your basic posture is set up, don't start doing any particular practice yet. Just sit and just be here, just be present to what's here without actually trying to change it or develop it. Just be present. Don't try and stop your mind doing what it's doing. Just let it flow on if it's flowing on. So this initial just sitting is a way of getting a sense of how things are with us at the moment, what the body feels like, what's going on with the mind. Is the mind busy or quiet, relatively speaking? A very important distinction in practice, in meditation practice, is the distinction between mental abstractions and actual sense experiences. So we can abstract from any of our senses. We can think of a smell, for instance, or think of a taste and get a sense of it mentally. And we can also imagine our body. So if we imagine the body, it's usually in terms of a mental image of the visual body, our appearance. But what we're concerned with here is not the visual body, it's what I call the somatic body. And by somatic in this context, I mean the sensate body, the sensations of the body. And these sensations are a quality of vibrance and aliveness. So just aware of that distinction, you might notice that at the moment there's quite a lot of thoughts going on. And we want the mind to quieten down to some extent, but not by doing anything directly with the mind itself. So what we're going to do is bring your awareness to the tactile or body sensations of your face. So this could be a sense of coming from thoughts in the head to the actual experience of part of your head, the face. And just let the awareness go to different areas of the face, just checking out the sensations there. And it's quite likely that you'll find, once you're in the body experience, you'll find that there are areas of holding or tension in the face. So around the forehead, the eyes, the joint of the jaw, are typical areas where there can be tension. And notice whether just by bringing awareness to an area where there's tension, just the awareness alone enables it to begin to release. So we'll just carry on opening to the sensations of the body, the somatic body. So now include not just the face, but the whole of the head, the sensate head. And then the neck and the throat. So the throat is another area where there can be some kind of contraction or holding. So again, if you're aware of that, just see whether the awareness can allow it to begin to release at least. And then the area of the shoulders, the collarbones, adding in the arms, the hands, the fingers, and then the upper chest, or I should say the upper torso. So that's the whole rib cage area. And it's also, of course, the area of the heart, which we'll be returning to. But at the moment, just the whole rib cage, front, sides, and back. And also notice the breathing sensations. Adding in the lower torso, corresponding with the abdomen, everything below the diaphragm, front, sides, and back, with the breath sensations which are there in that area. And again, keep aware of contractions that can be released. The abdomen is an area that's often held onto, tensed up. So let the abdomen go as much as possible. And then the whole area of the pelvis, including the hips, the pelvic floor, the buttocks. And notice if you're sitting rather than lying down, there are quite strong sensations around the buttocks and the pelvic floor where there's contact with whatever you're sitting on. And then also taking in the legs and the feet. And also notice there in the legs or the feet, the sensations of contact with the floor. If you're lying down on your back, you can notice those contact sensations right along the back, wherever it is in contact. And just focus on those sensations of contact for now. So they're relatively intense due to the Earth's gravity and its influence on our body. But let the awareness rest in those sensations and notice the quality of grounding, literally the contact with the ground, contact with the earth, certainly the Earth's gravity. Now, are you fully in those sensations? So the experience is only where the awareness is. And the awareness and the experience are in the same place. So if you have a sense that you're kind of up in the head, looking down in a way into these sensations, see if you can just drop that. Drop the notion that you are in the head or that awareness is in the head. And let the awareness just be where the sensations are. Be in that awareness where the sensations are. So that's the foundation of the posture. And the upper body, just allow it to have a sense of lightness and lift based in that grounding. And rather than having your awareness towards the front surface of the upper body, which is habitual with most people, let it come back towards the spine. A sense of being grounded in the upper body, back towards the spine. And then as awareness or consciousness inhabit your whole tactile or somatic body. Which is, of course, your breathing body. So you can give some focus to the sensations of breathing, just to keep your experience embodied, your awareness embodied. Now, is the mind still busy? Is it still proliferating, if it has been? So if there is mental proliferation going on, there are various ways in which we can address that. And of course, usually we're going to be using the mindfulness of breathing. We could be using counting the breaths, and all of that is completely acceptable in this context. We're not restricting it at all. We just want to do whatever enables the mind to settle. So you could focus on the breath at the nostrils. You could just focus on the overall sense of the breath. Count the breaths. Or another recourse, if the mind is busy, particularly busy, is to focus on the breath right down in the lower abdomen. And that's the area which I usually refer to as the hara, which is centered more or less halfway between the navel and the pelvic floor. But it's enough just to have a general sense of the abdomen, and if the mind is busy, having the awareness there, or even in the sensations of grounding, can be helpful. So just spend a couple of minutes testing out where it's best to have your focus. So if you've got sleepiness, then it's good to bring the awareness up So maybe to the breath at the nostrils or to the crown of the head, or even above the head, projecting your awareness into the sky. And if you're proliferating generally, it's good to bring the awareness down. But do experiment. And what we're looking for is a general sense of presence in the body, in the somatic experience of the body. If you're following the breath, be the breath, be those sensations, rather than observing those sensations. And you may begin to notice that by attending to the body, being in the body, not attending to the mind just of itself becomes quieter, less disturbing, less disruptive. Now let go of whatever you've been focusing on and just sit again. Just be open to whatever's here. No choice, just allowing it to be. Okay, so inevitably these sessions are going to be quite short, but what I'm aiming to do is just to introduce some basic principles that you can work with in your own practice, hopefully. So the main principle there is simply bringing our awareness into the body, into the soma. It may be slightly different ways to which you usually do it in your meditation practice. Maybe you do this all the time, I don't know. But it's a way of you're just becoming more embodied, and the embodiment itself naturally allows the mind to settle. So we don't need to concern ourselves directly with the mind. I did mention that basic movement of awareness. If you're sleepy, bring the awareness up. And if there's proliferation going on, bring the awareness down. So there's refinements of that, but these are just ways of using awareness of the body to counter what amount to disturbances in our practice, which is mainly around the mind, just sort of carrying on as it does. You're just chattering on or proliferating on. Anyway, any observations or from that practice that we just did, or any questions? And if you do, don't forget to unmute. Barbara?
Yeah, I just found it so wonderful or something to focus on these sensations. Like we live with these sensations all the time, but we're not aware of them because we're on automatic pilot, and just feeling things on my face, or bringing attention to the processes that are happening anyway. It was really a nice kind of like introduction to myself as a body.
Good.
And, so thank you very much.
Okay, great. Yeah. So I mean, it is very much that. It's just like, as you say, these sensations are always here, but we're not always aware of them. And I mean, some people, many people, I think, are chronically, sort of caught up in their mental activities to the extent that they have very little real somatic experience. So I mean, it's very simple, because as soon as you bring your awareness to it, there it is. I mean, the more you bring your awareness to it, the richer it can become. But at the same time, there are always sensations that you can bring awareness to, which are, well, they're somatic, they're not conceptual. They're direct experience of the sensate body.
Just one more tiny thing. Usually when we have sensations, or when I have a sensation, say I want to do something about it, like, oh, I'm itching, I'm uncomfortable, or what's wrong with my left foot? So in this case, it was, you don't do anything really about it unless you can't stand it. You just feel it. So that's kind of a nice way to interact with the body.
Yeah, quite. Yeah. And you're precisely right there. It's just like, we only need to move if it really becomes uncomfortable and painful. So ideally, by keeping relatively still, that also helps the mind to settle. Of course, the body does move of itself. It's like it has its own sense of balance, and it just moves in meditation naturally. So we're not trying to stop that from happening, but trying not to scratch every itch, for instance. Okay. Any other observations or points? And by the way, there are 2 screens here, so you could put up a virtual hand if you can't. Oh yeah, I can see Robin has done that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it really was a great pain management technique too. I have really been struggling with neck tension in my sits, and just focusing on that and offering it an opportunity to release was very helpful.
Oh, great. Yeah, it has all sorts of benefits. Knock-on effects. Anyone else?
I find the bringing the awareness to the back, or towards the back, just incredibly helpful every time. I keep thinking it's going to wear off the effect of it, but it doesn't. Every time it sort of interrupts something, and just it's quite mysterious to me, actually. I like that.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it kind of, as I said, because we tend to live without being aware of it at the surface of our, the front of our body. It's like it's out there. Whereas if you bring the awareness back towards the spine and let that kind of be the core of the upper body, it does make quite a distinct difference. So I see it in terms of having 2 kinds of grounding. There's the actual grounding in the ground with with your posture, but then there's another level of grounding in the what I call the core. So it's more or less parallel with, or just more or less just take it as the spine. So if you keep your awareness back, just notice what difference that makes. Pamatara's just been on a week's retreat with me, so I've been emphasizing this quite a lot of late. Yeah.
I was actually taken by the distinction between bringing the attention to the place versus using it from the head down.
Yeah.
And I definitely found that when I'm able to do the former, it has more of an effect. When I'm struggling, I'm actually doing it from the head.
That's right. Yeah. So it probably works the other way around. If you are struggling, just remember to bring your awareness down, and that should make a difference as well. Okay. Well, look, we've already had 45 minutes, so we want to move into what is in a way the main topic. Although what we're doing so far is absolutely integral to it, and I mean, those of you that are familiar with the Triratna system of practice will recognize that what we've been doing so far comes into the first area, which is integration, which is basically becoming stabilized in the body and allowing the mind to settle. That's the main aspect of that, practically speaking. And the second aspect is the area that we call positive emotion. So we're going to begin to explore that. But before we do that, and I want to do this also somatically, I want to explore positive emotion somatically, because those of you who are familiar with the stages of the Metta practice, there's quite a lot going on there, both imaginatively and in terms of the focus on your own sense of metta, and also usually of another person. And it helps to bring it back to something like simplicity, a simplicity about it, which is what I'm aiming to introduce. I'm not sure if we'd have time, but there's also something I'd quite like to do around making sure or discovering how the love can be unconditional. So hopefully there'll be time to do that. But I want to approach it from the heart, quite literally the heart center. And the heart center, of course, is part of the somatic body that we've already been focusing on. But we're going to explore that more, and then opening to, or hopefully opening to the heart in a deeper way. So I spoke about the depths of the heart. I must have said something to Papatara because she put it in blurb. The depths of the heart, or the deep heart. So we'll just explore what that might be as well in our experience. Okay, so unless there's any other points or questions, we'll do another meditation. Just quite briefly recollecting what we've already been focusing upon, the sense of the sensate body. And you could just briefly, if you want to, you could just bring your awareness to those various parts from the face and downwards, as we did at the beginning. Just experientially, with awareness, touching on those areas of our somatic body. And particularly the grounding in the sensations of contact with the ground, with the earth, directly or indirectly. And also that other kind of grounding by having a general sense of the awareness coming from the back of the upper body or to the spine rather than from the front surface. And just when you've done that, just be the whole breathing body. Just let awareness take in the whole thing. That includes the whole sense of the breath throughout the body, wherever the breath or the movements of the breath are felt. Now notice that the body, the somatic body, as distinct from the visual body that we can only imagine at the moment, the somatic body simply consists of sensations. And you may well notice that if you focus on them, that a lot of these sensations are vibrational. Or another way to put it is tingly. There's a sense of energetic vibration about the sensate body. And you may only notice it in some areas and not in others, but notice it wherever it is evident. This kind of vibrant aliveness. You could almost call it effervescent. Also notice that you have an implicit sense of the dimension of the body. In other words, that these sensations are arrayed in the space of the body. So noticing these actually very fast vibrations of these sensations themselves, where they're evident, and the space in which they're arising, the space of the body, the dimension of the body. You could begin to get a sense that actually the body is spacious and not heavy. These sensations themselves, even the sensations of contact with the cushion and the floor and so on, the sensations themselves don't have any weight. So if you can just experience the body in that way, as light, almost weightless, rather than heavy. So I often use the metaphor of the sensate body as a cloud, or being like a cloud. If you imagine a cloud floating in the open sky, the cloud, any cloud, is permeated by space. It's within the dimension of space. And the droplets, which are like the sensations, are kind of swirling around. And like a cloud, if you look into your experience to see whether this holds up, the cloud doesn't have a clear shape from the inside or clear edges. If you've flown through a cloud or walked through a mist, you'll know that it doesn't suddenly start or end as if it's got a wall. It kind of fades. And so see if you can sense your body in this kind of way, using that metaphor. It's much more spacious and kind of indeterminate than we normally take it to be. And it's still the exact same kind of sensations that we normally have. We're just regarding them in a different way. Now there are any number of kind of areas of the somatic body, spaces of the somatic body that we could bring awareness to, which have their own particular, we could say, energy signatures. I've already briefly mentioned the hara down in the lower abdomen, but now bring your awareness to the space of the heart. So usually, for most people, it's in the middle of the chest. It includes and is more or less on the level of the physical heart. And it can be worth asking your body, dropping in a question to your body, where is my heart? Where is my heart center? And if you ask that and just be open, you may find that awareness goes somewhere somewhat different to where you usually take it to be. Or it may be going to exactly where you usually take it to be. Just let the awareness rest in the heart space. And notice the particular qualities of the heart right now, of the heart center. So there may be a sense of emotion there, there may be a sense of openness, there may be a sense of contraction. It may be painful, so just be aware of how the heart center is right now. And then let there be a sense of kindness or goodwill or warmth, kindly intention imbuing your heart. It's like you're opening to these qualities on the assumption that they're here to be open to. And in fact, kindness is what we've been expressing all along, simply by doing these practices. That's an act of kindness in itself. You're just aware of the heart with a sense of kindness or goodwill. And notice whether the sense of kindness does sort of affect the sense of the heart, or whether the heart begins to respond to it. Maybe opening up more. Or becoming more emotionally resonant. So we're still primarily being aware of the sensations in the heart area and the quality of those sensations. So just keep up that general sense of kindness, goodwill, as you explore the heart center a bit more deeply. But actually, you may well be able to find there are different senses to different areas of the heart center. So, for instance, if you bring your awareness to the area where the actual physical heart is, notice the quality there. Just let it be whatever it is, and there's no need to try and label it or identify it in some way. Just let it be whatever it feels like. You know directly what it feels like. And then the equivalent area on the right side of the chest, towards the center, but on the right side. Does that have its own particular signature or quality? And then one more area, the area towards the back of the heart center, actually back towards the spine. And again, you may find a particular quality. Some people find it a little bit further down than the general level of the heart center. You could almost see there's a sort of soulful quality. Or at least potentially so. Now I'm just going to make a suggestion, which is that we could regard the heart as being boundless. And so we're familiar with the boundless radiation of metta outwards. And in a sense, that is an extension, a radiation of our heart. So it doesn't have any external bounds. But we could also sense that it is boundless in the other direction. It's boundlessly deep. So let the sense of kindness or benevolence still be there. And see if you can intuit somatically the deep heart, depths of the heart. This could, in part, be an imaginative exercise, but the imagination can also lead us into some very valuable areas of actual experience. And you could say that the deep heart is like a portal potentially to something which goes beyond me as a separate being, a separate entity. We're opening to something of our deeper nature. Beyond self, beyond other. Just to whatever extent you can get a sense of that, even imaginatively, just stay with that. But we're going to come back to it when we do the Tonglen, the sending and receiving. For now, just contact a sense of kindness, benevolence, goodwill, well-wishing, love. All different ways of talking about metta or maitri. Just let that quality pervade your whole being from the heart, pervading the whole of what you are. And I do mean the whole of what you are. So we often talk about metta as unconditional love. And that is literal. It doesn't have any conditions. So if there are parts of ourselves which we maybe feel unhappy with or even dislike, it's equally for those aspects of ourselves as it is for the parts that we approve of and like. So you can be aware of, it might immediately come to mind things that you're not so happy about regarding yourself, but nevertheless, the love is pervading everything that we are. unconditionally. And if we can contact that unconditional metta or love in ourselves, then we can extend it to others. You have a kindly regard of others just as they are, without conditions. Whether they're people that we wholly approve of or wholly disapprove of in some ways. Of course, everybody's mixed. We can nevertheless have this open heart of metta, this unconditional heart of metta, opening to them. There's a sense right now that that's there, not just in and towards yourself, but generally towards all people, in fact, all life. If people do act unskillfully, they act ill-advisedly. We're all aware of all the cruelties and so on that humans are capable of. But the response from the deep heart is unconditional, not approbation of those actions, but unconditional love of the deluded, suffering being that's engaging with those actions. So this is very much metta going in the direction of compassion. Okay, now just let go of this practice as such and just sit again. Okay, so any observations regarding that practice?
I noticed the heart center was in the throat area for me.
Mm.
That's where the breath seemed to be focusing as well, and I was
Mm.
focused on the breath there.
Yeah.
And then coming down to the physical sense of the heart area, the physical space, it seemed like it felt like a settling.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then going to the back of the heart felt quite emotional.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. There's something about the back of the heart which is quite distinctive and special. It's quite a recent discovery for me. It's certainly worth exploring. Okay, anybody else? I'd be quite interested to hear about any observations about because we looked at those different areas of the heart. Whether anyone had any sense of them being different. Whether the opening to metta unconditionally in that way, sort of worked for you at all. I'd be quite interested to hear any observations.
I agree that it was kind of interesting that, that you could get into that soulful quality in the back of the heart, and that I had this awareness of sadness that I hadn't been aware of. I went to that region. So it's a good way, I think, especially in, my busy life. And I'm thinking often about other people and other situations outside of me.
Yeah.
Come back into this deeper sensation that, just feelings that are, I'm just not always attending to in myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just experience that broader. And that does actually kind of connect me more to the world, obviously. When I'm really in touch with my own suffering, I can be more attuned to other people's suffering.
Yeah.
And, joy as well, but
Sure.
that sense of the deeper.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really. Again, I found it. That to the extent that the love just within myself is unconditional. To that extent, it's unconditional towards others. Whereas, if I'm conditionally loving myself, which means that I'm actually disapproving of parts, or sort of holding back from parts of me, the way I come across, then it's limited towards others as well. So, I mean, we always say, right, when we introduce metta bhavana to people, that it's you have to have self metta before you can cultivate metta for others, and I really find that is true. But when I say self metta, it means unconditional self metta. That is really important. And then you can kind of see people. Well, humans are just humans. We all have our ups and downs and our faults and foibles. Yeah. Okay. I think we'll just have a little break until past, and then we'll sort of move from where we are now towards the Tonglen. practice. So see you in a few minutes. Okay, do come back if you're there. Okay, so rather than waiting, so to speak, just be sensitive to your heart as you're sitting here. Okay, so we're going to move in towards the Tonglen practice. And Tonglen is, well, it's Tibetan. It means something like sending and receiving. And it's a compassion practice, so it's equivalent to the practice of compassion, which is one of the divine abodes, the Karuna Bhavana. But Tonglen, I think it's a brilliant practice because it both involves the body, it involves the soma, it involves our experience of the body, but it also involves the imagination, brings in that element, and it brings in compassion, so it brings those three elements together. And there are lots and lots of different versions of Tonglen. Some of them are quite sort of elaborate and involve all sorts of visualizations and kind of recitation of verses, and it can be quite an elaborate practice. But the basic form, which I like to do, is very, very simple. But there are a few important principles, and the most important one is that at least, let's say, somatically or imaginatively, you are in contact with the deep heart, the depths of the heart. So as I was saying, the depths of the heart is one portal, you could say, in our being to that which is beyond the sense of me being a separate person doing this. You could say that through the portal of the heart comes the sense that this is not happening because I'm doing it, or it's not something I'm doing, it's something which is manifesting through me. And you could say quite literally, or at least imaginatively, that it's coming through me from the Buddha. Now, I like to, sometimes I like to visualize the Buddha, Amitabha, who's the Buddha of love, boundless light, the Buddha of love, behind me, in the space behind me, Amitabha, deep red, and he has the meditation mudra, that one. So and he's just sort of radiating love, which is sort of coming through my heart. Now, I mean, that's a more imaginative way of relating to it. Alternatively, you could imagine a jewel. So the jewel is what's called the bodhicitta. It symbolizes the bodhicitta, as does Amitabha, actually. The jewel is made of light. And if you've seen images of the Bodhisattva of compassion, Avalokiteshvara, he holds a jewel to his heart like that. That jewel is the jewel of the awakened heart, the bodhicitta. So again, you can, if you wish, visualize your heart, or in your heart, in your deep heart, a jewel, or a lotus flower made of light, or visualize nothing at all. You can just have a sense that you're opening into this deep heart, which goes beyond me, in a way, into our deepest nature, which is symbolized by the Buddha, Amitabha. So there's that connection. And when we're doing the Tonglen, we're bringing all of the suffering into our heart. but not into our individual heart, not into my heart, not into my personal heart. It's really important, this bit, that we're sensing that the heart is the bodhicitta, the heart is the awakened heart. So it's not me that's doing this. We're just allowing this practice to manifest through us and opening to that, opening to the depths of our heart as doing this. So if you just get a general sense of beings are suffering, we all know this. We all know this very well. We know from our own suffering and all the suffering that goes on in the world, and is going on in the world currently, but it always has been going on in the world. Our current times aren't fundamentally different to any other times in history. So there's always suffering. And you can just have a sense that on the in-breath, this is the somatic aspect, on the in-breath, all the people suffering, or being suffering, comes into our heart, into the deep heart, into the bodhicitta. And on the out-breath, is transformed by the bodhicitta. On the out-breath, light goes out to all beings, conferring relief from suffering, or the ending of suffering, which is what the Dharma is essentially about. So you've got this very simple dynamic of breathing in suffering of all beings, not into me, but into our awakened heart, so to speak. And on the out breath, that is transformed into relief and potential ending of suffering for all beings. And so you can visualize on the in-breath, you can visualize it as something like dark smoke coming in, embodying the suffering, and on the out-breath, it goes out as light. So you can just get that sort of visualization going with it. So it's a very, very simple practice, but it can go very, very deep and be very transformative. So are there any questions about that before we actually do it? No? Okay, so set up your meditation posture. And let the awareness come into the whole sense of the body, the somatic body. The breathing body. But with the sensations of grounding in contact with the floor and the seat. And also with the awareness towards the rear of the upper torso. As another kind of grounding. And just remain in your breathing body for a little while. And let the awareness come to the heart center. And simultaneously just open to the presence already of kindness, goodwill, and so forth. And be aware of the qualities of the heart center. And then contact its depths, either imaginatively or somatically. Just the sense that there is something within us, so to speak, which is beyond us, which is infinitely greater than what we take ourselves to be. And you could make contact with that by visualizing the Buddha Amitabha behind you, or another Buddha or Bodhisattva, whichever you feel a sense of contact with. Or you could have the sense of a jewel of light or a flower of light in the deep heart, symbolizing the same. It represents the awakened heart, our own deepest potential, our own deepest nature. And to whatever extent possible, you can't do this volitionally, but just let go into that. Open to it manifesting or working through you. And let the metta, let the love be unconditional. And then make an imaginative connection with all of the suffering in this world, all of the suffering in the universe, and not just humans, but all sentient beings, all suffer. This is one of the core teachings of the Buddha, the universality of dukkha. And for this practice, there's no necessity to imagine the details, so to speak. It's enough to open from your heart to the fact that beings suffer, just as you do, just as I do. And then let the suffering gather, so to speak, into dark smoke, if you wish to visualize it. And on the in-breath, let it come into the deep heart of the bodhicitta, the awakened heart. Let that transform it. And on the out-breath, sending it out again, radiating it out in all directions, to all beings, the relief and cessation of suffering, which is what the Dharma offers. Be very clear that it's the awakened heart which is doing this and not you personally. Okay, and then on an out breath, let the light conferring cessation of suffering go out again to all life. And then just let go of the whole practice and visualization, if you've been doing any. And just sit. Okay, so that's a embodied practice of Tonglen, or an enhearted practice of Tonglen, I hope. Any observations on that?
Yeah, Tejananda, thank you. I wanted to say that I really appreciated the distinction you made in the beginning about the personal heart and the universal heart. My heart's been pretty guarded today, and just to understand that, again, it's not so much me, as the bodhicitta. And so when I started the practice, I had the Amitabha right behind me. I mean, he was like right there, and I was almost on his lap. And then when you said the words about letting go, it was as if there was an ocean that just kind of went through me, and it was really visually the ocean. I could smell it, and it was just the universal metta that made it much more doable for me. Again, it was tentative in a way,
Yeah.
but the concern about that guardedness, my personal heart really wasn't there at that point. Maybe between Amitabha being there and the waves, it was quite an experience.
That's great.
So yeah, thank you so much for having to be able to hold both, personal and the universal. That was
great. Yeah, that's really what it's all about. So nice to hear that. Yeah. Anyone else? Okay, I'll just say one more thing about the this practice, which is, you may have noticed this, but you're always breathing, presumably. So, to that extent, you could always potentially be doing this Tonglen in a very simple, intuitive way. Yeah, so it's just like it's something you can do wherever you are. If you have a few moments. I really think this is a transformative practice. Well, all of our practices are transformative, but this one has particular potency, and the world, the universe really needs it. So do use it. Do make the most of it. And I think that's just about time up.
That's amazing. Thank you, Tejananda. That was wonderful. It's amazing what you managed to pack into 2 hours, actually. I feel like I've been on another retreat. So if it's okay with you, Tejananda, I will send out the recording to the people here so that you can do those meditations again if you'd like to. I'll also I put in the chat Tejananda's, Vajraloka's website, where you can go and find retreats that Tejananda and the team there are doing. And also, Tejananda, did I see that you're doing something with the Buddhist Centre online?
I am,
as
yeah,
well?
yeah. That's later this month. No,
Okay,
or next month. Anyway, it's on the Buddhist Centre online.
so that's something else.
Yeah.
And yeah, Tejananda kind of did this for the San Francisco Buddhist Centre. We're very grateful for all your donations. If you also would like to donate to Vajraloka, I'm sure they would appreciate it too, because they're a retreat centre and they're not having residential retreats at the moment, which I'm sure makes a difference, even though you're doing things online. So yay, as many people are putting in the chat. Tejananda, thank you. Just thank you for doing
It's a pleasure. Yeah, it's
wonderful.
always great to be in San Francisco.
Yes.
Literally
Beautiful
all
day here.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, hope to see you all whenever and wherever.
If
Thank
you want
you.
to unmute yourself and yell, that's good.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. That was
Bye-bye.
lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tejananda.
Seeing everybody.
Good to see you.
Thanks, everybody. Really good to see
Bye,
everybody.
Tejananda.
It's so good to see everyone.
Bye.
Thank you very
so
much.
much.
Hi, everyone. Happy birthday, Padmatara.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, thank you. This was my birthday present as well. I forgot.
Birthday.
Okay, I'm going to go get my dinner now.
You go.